What is going on YouTube? It is your boy Trev. It's very late, so I'm gonna try to make this one as short as I possibly can. I want to talk to you about Rackoff Token. I want to give you some info on where we are, where we're going, what's happened so far, maybe some opinions, right? So, first thing I think I want to do is take you over to the Rackoff chart. This is probably the last 2 or 3 weeks, this portion of the chart. And what I like to use sometimes, gives me kind of a good visual, is this regression tool. So what I want to do, this was the highest point that this has gotten to, and this was 4012724. So what I want to do is I want to go from that candle where we were kind of hit our highest high to where we are right now. And this regression tool basically shows you kind of an average. Now, it's averaged lower and lower over the past few weeks, according to this regression tool. There is a definite downward kind of decline, if you will, from that highest high. But I mean, really, when you look at it, you got to look at it. We're talking about from way up here to here, and then this tool kind of averages it out. So you would think, well, we hit that high and it's done nothing but come down since then. But you hear this very often. You have to zoom out, okay? Because that's what it's done, absolutely, over the last couple weeks. This project's been around at this point for 4 months. And what I want to do is take that regression tool and go from beginning to end. And when you do that, you see a whole different story. This chart is actually beautiful. It's beautiful for a lot of reasons. One, from where we started to where we are now, it is an absolute bullish momentum. Very, very nice incline, okay, to where we are. We've had some really nice high highs. We've gotten really high. And it's come back down and it's settled in this area. And you can, again, clearly see that with this regression tool. But I'm going to remove this because I want to tell you what I think about this chart. This chart is not indicative of market movement or market sentiment. It's not really indicative of lunk or following any kind of lunk pattern. This chart clearly tells the story of Rackoff Token. It tells the journey, right? And let me tell you what I mean. So if you look at, and this is really cut in half. I mean, this is like from here to here, this portion that you see that looks fairly flat, that's like the first 2 months, right? And then from here to here, you got probably the last month and a half, 2 months or whatever, right? When you look at this first section, compared to the volatility and volume and everything that we have over here, you say, okay, well, it was really kind of dead for a couple months there. Well, again, zoom out. I'm going to take this back. I'm going to open this up, stretch this out. And when you actually open this up, let me bring it up. I'm going to position it so you can see it right. When you open this up and actually look at the movement zoomed out, again, you get a whole different story, okay? And if I, again, just to kind of show you it, right? You go from where it actually launched to right before it really, really took off. And you see that there is still one hell of an incline. It is done very, very well. And even from there to there, it had all kinds of highs and lows and whatever, but it never came back down really all that much below that line. So it was, even at the very beginning, it was doing really, really well. Why? Okay, again, telling the story. The creators of Rackoff Token are Lunatic Luna Lover 69, Frag Dude, right? Junior developer. People who have been in this chain, in this community, since the beginning, so especially LL, right? Lunatic Luna Lover, I call him LL. Especially LL. since the Terra Rebels, right? He's on the marketing team since the beginning. Listen, there's not a single person in this community that everybody likes. Somebody. There's people that like him, people that don't like him. You can say the same thing about these two guys, but for the most part, I think most people like these guys, and at the very least, respect them and trust them and understand that they have been here since the beginning. They're kind of not going anywhere, right? So, with no marketing, no socials, no anything else, just the fact that these are the guys that built it, and the fact that it was a meme coin on Terra Classic. Totally unique. Had anybody even thought of that, right? Nobody thought of putting a meme coin on Terra Classic. Here we go. Meme season. Memes are going crazy on ETH, on Solana, everywhere. Now we have a meme coin on Terra Classic. Very, very interested. A lot of people were. And so that's why you had the growth that you had. I'll get rid of that line. I'm going to zoom back out again and continue to tell the story. Let me shrink this down so that I can actually get it all in the field. And you're going to shrink it down quite a bit because, boy, did we have a run. So it was pretty early on that LL told me about it. Somewhere around here, I'd say. What is that? No, it's going to be before that. It was around here, like the end of March. He kind of told me about it. Last couple of days of March. And brought my interest back because I was done with Terra Classic. Done with all the fights, done with all the circles, done with all that. But I found this very, very interesting, like a lot of people did. So it brought me back. As it went on, again, we had those highs, we had those lows, we had those different things. The socials really started to kick in. I was doing videos. We were having interviews. We were posting like crazy. And it really started to move these things. Then it started trending on CoinHall, trending in different places. It was number 1, it's number 2, it's number 3, it's, up on the list. Seeing more and more eyes are starting to see it. More and more people in Terra Classic and the Lump community are starting to realize, this isn't some weirdo fly-by-night thing. This is something serious that's going on here. And then you see that it absolutely just launched for about 4 days. It went crazy. And we went from 5 zeros, 1, 2 about, up to 4 zeros, 1, 1, 2. Percentage-wise, I don't even know. It was one hell of a percentage, right? But again, so let's tell the story. At this point, more and more people are realizing that this is a very serious project, right? But too late to get in now. Look at that crazy run-up. I don't want, I would love to be a part of this, but it's run up so high. Trading 101 tells me not to buy on a big green candle like this, and we just had green candle after green candle. So, can't get in. Well, what happened is that it got up to the top here, and then came back down. You see where that was the top, but the wick, right, came back down. The candle ended at around this 4 zeros 1. It was still over 4 zeros. Before it came back down into 5 zeros, it was still at that 4 zeros 1. And then people decided to take some profits at that point. Maybe they looked at their account and they said, wow, right? This thing, they were waiting to see if it was going to keep going up because you saw that wick, right? But it came back down. Some people at the top of that wick started taking profits and it started coming back down. And it came down to this level, and then we had a couple of red candles that brought it way, way down, all right? So from where it went all the way to where it came up, from here to here, if I were to put a ruler on it, from here to here, am I doing? Yeah, I'm probably doing it the wrong way. Let me see. Let me do it this way. Yeah, from here to here was like a 51, almost a 52% drop. And so, yeah, people took some profits and it came way down. But again, you got to look at your wick. You got to look at your candle. The wick is how low it went in that 4-hour period. The candle, the bottom of the candle tells you where it ended up at the end of that 4-hour period. So I want to pull out another tool here because I want to kind of show you something, right? So again, I'm going to put this at the bottom of this wick and then to the top of this wick, okay? And we'll just leave that right there for a second. So what I noticed is that the bottom of this wick is where people said, okay, it's come down so far now that now's a good time that I'm going to buy in. I want to buy in at this point. That is a buy-in level. And that's what they did. They bought in. And it came back up, and that 4-hour candle settled right there. And then the next candles you saw were green and red and green and red and green and red, and it kind of bounced around for, I don't know, a good day or so, right? People, I think, were wondering and waiting, are we going to have another leg up? Is it going to get another all-time high? What's going to happen, right? But they're in it now, and they've been dying to get in it because they know about Protocol X. They know that this is a serious project. They know everyone who's involved. So we saw that the trader count really started climbing. People got in, they wanted to stay, but they were waiting for that second leg. Never really got that second leg. So some people, again, might have said, we got to like here, right, over to maybe these 3 red candles, when some people finally said, you know what, it's not going to go any higher. I was waiting for it to go higher. It's not going to go any higher, so I'm going to take maybe some profits. And that's kind of what happened. I mean, if you see red candles and it coming down, it's because people sold, right? So it came back down a little bit, and then it hit this level. And can you see my line? That's the same level as the bottom of that red candle. It hit the bottom, it hit that spot, and people said, oh, that's a good spot to buy, right? That's just a good level to buy at. So they bought it back up, and it came back up. And then it started going up again. Then it came down, it went up, it came down. And then we got into this pattern over the last 2 or 3 weeks, right? That right here, that we're just bouncing up and down in this area here. But here's what I found interesting. Remember that line that I drew from the bottom of this wick to the top of this wick? If I take that and just stretch it out, do you see what I see? That wick, we didn't even know it then, right? Because you don't have a crystal ball. But that wick kind of told the story of the zone that people wanted to kind of be in this project. If it goes to the bottom of that, they want to buy it. If it goes up to the top of that, maybe some people are going to take profits and they're going to sell it. And you can clearly see that we have stayed in the zone of that wick all this time. All right. Why have we really done that? Why have we stayed there? Why haven't we dropped back down? Why haven't we gone up? The chart tells the story, right? The story is we started talking about Protocol X. People got involved. They were dying to get in. It went crazy, right? Some people missed it. It came back down. They got in. When they got in, they held, right? Some people took some profits. That's going to happen. But primarily, people held, and they're still holding. Why are they holding? Everything I just told you. LL, Frag, me, Danny, Rocco, so many people, Redline Drifter now, so many people that have gotten involved in this project that bring credibility to it. That's one. Two, all the things that LL and Frag and all those guys are working on with these bots or whatever it is that they're doing that, for market making, and, everybody sees the things that are actually being developed, the things that are being worked on to keep this thing going, to keep it alive, and to push it forward. And then the promise of Protocol X, right? Which we gave an approximate timeline of middle to the end of the summer or something like that, right? Understand that's in perfect world conditions. That's if everything works out absolutely perfectly. That's the kind of timeline that we're looking at. Things very rarely work out absolutely perfectly. So, Protocol X is huge. It's going to take time, right? Which brings me to kind of the next section of this, right? I wanted to show you the chart. I wanted to tell you the story that this chart is telling me, and let me know if you're seeing the same thing that I do, if you agree with me. But I want to show you something else right now. Moving to Protocol X. It's been a little bit of a journey with Protocol X. And I made a little bit of a timeline for myself, but also to kind of keep you guys informed about what's happening and where it's come from. So I'm going to tell you a quick little, I'm going to make it as quick as I can, this story about where this all started. So at the beginning, LL told me about the project, right? Told me about some things that he wanted to do. I found it really interesting. Okay, now I've got a lot of friends that I've made. I know a lot of developers. I know a lot of right, one of those guys that I know, is full stack developer. Like a lot, we've become pretty good friends, right? I have spoken with him about Terra Classic and about Lunk for a long time now. He's never really been involved in Lunk, but he does have some intimate knowledge of the breakdown of Terra Luna, and the fork, and he's got a lot of knowledge about it. Let's just put it that way, right? And so we've had conversations along the way, and I was talking to him one day about Rackoff token and about the fact that there's a meme coin now, and these guys, this is who's running it, and he knows these guys. He knew who they were, right? Before they knew him, he knew them. Who's running it, that I'm getting involved in it. Hey, it kind of brought me back. I got a little excitement about it. And I told him about the project, and he said, wow, that's really interesting. Not only did he say it was interesting, but he said, tell them if they need any help with anything, let me know. Really took me aback, because this guy is very, very busy. He's involved in a few other projects. He's got a full-time job. I mean, like I said, he's a full-stack developer. He's being pulled in a million different directions, not to mention he's got a family, right? So it was very surprising to me when he said that. But I know that he's very busy, and so I did approach LL about it, because LL at this time was telling me about something. This is all over this couple of days, right? LL was telling me about something that they were trying to figure out how to do it, and Frag is awesome. He's, probably one of the best junior devs out there, but he's a junior dev. There are some things he doesn't quite know how to do yet, right? So LL told me that he's telling me about some things that he wanted to get done. I said, well, listen, I got to tell you, I've got a developer friend, full stack developer. He knows how to do everything you could possibly think of. And he did say to me just earlier today that if you guys needed help with anything, to let him know. Let me run it by him. Let me see what he says. So I went back to my developer friend. I said, listen, you put it out there that if they needed any help, I can tell you they kind of do need help. They need a full stack developer. They need somebody to kind of explain something to them, maybe at least give them some instructions on how to get this done. I said, if you've got time, do you want to chat with them so they can explain it to you? He said, sure, let's do that. So all within this first day, right? All this happened. So on day 2, April 2nd, where you can see on the timeline, I actually introduced everybody. And we set up a private DM on X and got everybody in there, me, LL, Frag, and the developer. Introduced them, and LL moved forward with explaining to him what it was that they were trying to do. Actually, I don't even remember if Frag was there for this first one. But anyway, LL explained to him what it was that they were trying to do. And he had some good ideas about how to do it, making it very, very clear that he knew exactly what he was doing. He knows his shit. LL was very impressed by that. And even though I warned LL ahead of time, don't hit this guy with anything huge, because you don't want to scare him away. If he's willing to help you with something little, take it, because he's very busy, and it's a rarity that he offers to help anybody, right? Don't hit him with anything crazy. Well, LL's exuberance got the better of him. And after explaining this first thing to the developer, and the developer kind of explaining how it could be done or whatever, yeah, that's easy, whatever. LL laid this other thing on him. He said, I've had this idea. It's a dream of mine. It's a dream that I have for Rackoff. It's a dream that I have for Terra Classic. I have no idea how to get it done, but man, if we could get it done. What do you think? And the developer listened, and he said, that's very interesting, is what he told him. He said, let me do some research, and find out if this is something that can be done or not. Yeah, I'm just making sure that you can see everything. Let me do some research and I'll get back to you. And I found that amazing that he was this interested in what's going on. So I had a conversation with him later that day, and he told me, he expressed his actual interest in it. I told him, listen, I'm surprised that you offered to do this. He says, listen, let me tell you something about this. He says, I don't know if this can actually be done. I'm going to look into it. If it can be done, it is the biggest thing that has ever happened or will ever happen to Terra Classic. This could really, really move mountains in the revitalization of Terra Classic. It will bring tons of interest and tons of new users. This thing is, I didn't understand it. I didn't even know what it was. He said, this is huge. He was very, very impressed by it. And he's the kind of guy who, when there's something major like that, he wants in. So he did his research. He spoke with some other people who have some other expertise. And he came back to us on April 6th, and you see here, and let everybody know it can be done. It can be done. It can be built. This is how you kind of do it, but yeah, it can actually be done. Frag and LL, were euphoric that it could actually even be done. They asked, okay, what is it going to take? What do we need? Can you do this for us? Are you willing to do this for us? He said, let me talk with my team. Let me figure out the logistics. If it's something that we feel like we can do, what the time frame might be, how much it'll cost you. Let me get as much information as I can, and I'll get back to you, okay? 3 days later, April 9th, came back and said, this is what it's going to take. This is how it can get done. This is how long it'll take. This is what it's going to cost you. LL mulled it over. In between there, he was working out financing already, trying to figure out how much he could get his hands on, right? So as of April 9th, you see it says Project X is a go. It was decided on that day that not only could this be done, but we were doing it. And that's what happened. So at that point, I think it was at that point that the developer said, yeah, I forget exactly what happened in the middle there, to be honest with you. There's a bunch of things that were going on. It's all a little bit of a blur because a lot of things were happening fast. But on April 14th, we actually had our very first call. So we set up a private Discord, and this is the first time that the guys actually talked voice with the developer. And what the developer asked them for was an A to Z list of exactly how they wanted this thing to work, what it was supposed to entail, what was the objective, what was Rackoff's part in it, what was Terra Classic's part, everything, A to Z. He wanted it all spelled out, exactly what they needed built, right? They said, okay. Well, that was on April 14th. But a week later, on April 20th, it was Frag that was going to write this thing out because he's the one with the most technical knowledge and can actually write this in a way that the developer is going to understand, right? So we were waiting for Frag to do this. Listen, Frag is super busy. He's super good. A lot of people trying to pull at him to do this, that, and the other thing. He's all over the place, right? Not only with Rackoff, but with other things. And he has a family. All those things, right? But I was getting a little impatient. I'll be honest, right? So on April 20th, I made a little comment, right, that maybe wasn't taken real well because of my impatience. And me and Frag, I'll be honest, had a little words back and forth with each other because he didn't like that I was being impatient. He was already under a ton of pressure, and I was putting more pressure on him, even though I was kind of saying it in a joking way. It was probably uncalled for, but it had been a week, and I wanted to, when are you going to get this to the developer? Let's get going. At this point, we had been talking about Project X at that point, right? Everybody was getting excited about it. The chart was starting to move. I wanted this thing to go. But Frag is a perfectionist. He very, very much wanted to impress this developer and make sure that he had everything that he needed to move ahead. So on April 25th, this A to Z list was finally complete. They created a repo, private repo, invited the developer. Inviting me to the repo is like inviting me to mission control for a rocket launch. I have no idea what's going on, right? But anyway, finally the A to Z was completed. Gave it to the developer so the developer could see what was going on. The developer said, okay, here's what's going to happen now. I'm going to get with my team, and we are going to figure out what the best way is to get this done, right? At first, they were thinking to do it in milestones. But when he came back with it, he said, what we all collectively decided is that the best way to do this, and they have a certain way that they're doing it. LL could tell you, but it's, some other kind of process or whatever. But basically, instead of milestones, they're doing it in what they call modules. You technical people out there would understand this. So they're doing it in modules, and it's going to be so that when each module is complete, it will be functional and usable. It will be testable, right? So at the end of the module, they're not going to leave you in the middle of something that's being developed. This will be this section of this protocol. This is it. It's done, right? And so now the guys can test it, right? And if they wanted, they could actually even implement it and use it. But I think the decision has been made that they're going to wait until the entire protocol is done, right, before anything is released. Whether that changes in the future, I have no idea. But anyway, that's what's going on. So they said that was going to be the best way to do it. Now, what they needed to do was get back with the team, right, the development team, and write out the modules. Say, this is what we're going to complete within this module. This is what we're going to complete within this module. Okay. That took a little while. It wasn't until May 17th that the modules was spelled out. No, I'm sorry. I'm wrong about that. The modules were spelled out on May 17th. Yes, I am. No, I'm right. The modules were spelled out on May 17th. And then what was decided then was, okay, at this point, now that we know exactly what we're doing and what process we're going to make to get there, we could start coding. But the proper procedure is to have documentation. Again, I'm not a coder. I don't know how this all works, but that's the proper way to do it. You have to have all your documentation written, and that precedes actually coding anything or writing any code, right? So that's where we were as of May 15th. Now, there was one particular team member on the development team that is going to do all the documentation, right? So I guess it's on GitHub. They open up what's a Git book, and this is what they write this documentation in, from the way I understand it, right? I could have it wrong, I don't know. But that is how it was going to happen. Now, probably about 3 days ago, I spoke with the developer. We speak all the time, but on this particular day, I happened to ask, so how's the documentation coming along? And he told me at that point, in 5 to 7 days, it should be completed and done. All right? Beautiful. Today, on our private Discord, he put in that the documentation and everything is going really well, and we should have it by Tuesday or Wednesday. It should be completed. So this is where we are. This is as far as we've come at this point, right? Keeping you totally up to date. That's where we are. So on Tuesday or Wednesday, everything going well, we should have the documentation. It should be all written out in the Git book, right? And at that point, the guys can look it over. If everything looks good, now start writing the code. Here we go, right? Module 1, I believe that's how it happens. So as we move along, I will continue to kind of update this chart and let you know step by step kind of everything that's happening right as we reach certain milestones. I'm going to call it. And we get, we're a quarter of the way there through this module, halfway through this module. These are the hurdles that they came up with. This one's going to take a little longer. This one's done faster than we thought. I'm going to keep you posted on that stuff up to the minute, right? As best I can. But this is where we are at this point. Why do I do this? This is basically to show you that this thing is real. There is some real serious work going into this. It is not going to be a fast thing because it is not a simple thing. It is not some half-ass utility just to make it look like you're doing something. This thing's major. And it's getting done right. They're taking their time to make sure that it's done right. And that's where we're at. That's where we're at. So, shutting this down for a second and going back to the chart. If you're not in Rakoff yet, this isn't financial advice because I'm not a financial advisor. We all know that. However, if you're not in Rakoff yet, as I said, this is the story. We're traveling here. People are holding, and this is where it is because they're waiting on Protocol X. They know that we're people who keep our word. They know that this thing, we told them it's going to be huge, so they know it's going to be huge. As we go on and I begin to tell you more and more updates on what exactly is happening, I want to pull out a pen here. This is me in my crystal ball, right? I think we see this thing continue to bounce up and down in this little area, this little column for a little while, till we start maybe coming out with some more information. We've come a little farther. This is where we are with Protocol X. We're doing a little better. And I think that as we get closer and closer to Protocol X being launched, and maybe some of these other things that the guys are working on, people might take some profits, come up and down. But I think that you're going to continue to see this thing actually start to get higher highs and higher lows. The more information that we're able to give you, and the more hype that everybody starts feeling, because we're getting closer and closer to launching this protocol. So if you're not in yet and you want to get in, I mean, how long are you going to wait? Does it make more sense to get in where it is right now, which is quite possibly as low as you're going to see it? Because now we're going to start getting into the coding phase and making this thing actually a real thing, right? Do you want to wait for that and wait for the price to get in, and maybe one day all of a sudden start to skyrocket on you like it did to, what did I just do? I don't know. Like it did to these people here, right? It was doing really well, and all of a sudden, boom, you saw what it did, right? And it was too late. They were lucky, some of them, to get back in when it pulled back, and they're still holding. But is that what you want to happen? That's up to you. You're going to do whatever you want to do with your own money. But if you're interested in this thing, if you're listening to anything that I'm telling you, no time like the present. That's all I'm going to say. All right, y'all. That is the story. That is my story. Let me get back over here. That's what's going on with Rakoff. That's what's going on with Protocol X. If you have any questions or comments about it, please leave them in the comment section. Please like the video on your way out. If you're not subscribed, feel free to subscribe, because this is where you'll come to get updates. Any of the alpha, you're going to get it here first. So, yeah, do your thing, and I'll talk to y'all later. Ciao.